just recently went back and rewatched the show. And the thing I appreciate about it now even more is how everything came together. And I'm talking about the performances, the writing, everything, the meticulous detail that went into the show. So for you guys, there was this great quote that Federico Fellini said, and it really, I think it kind of applies to the both of you. He said that a role starts when an actor is in the makeup chair. So for the two of you, when you had these roles, where did the role start for the two of you?
Well, it starts before the makeup chair for me. It starts with obviously the words in the script and getting the chance to just kind of absorb those words. And you know, my thing in acting is always that you're in service to the script. So you're trying to tell the story as they've told you to tell it with these words and to make these words real and come alive and things like that. So for me, it starts, you know, working on that in front of the mirror, working on, you know, my privacy in my bedroom and shit like that. But I get the makeup stuff. I mean, there's not a whole lot of makeup you need on this face, you know what I'm saying?
They were asking of me. And what I noticed was they had a bad guy of the week every week, and I realized that they needed a foil for Walter White, and I had just done a guest spot and let it go. And I got off the plane and I got a phone call saying, would you come back? I don't own you yet. And they were really like kind of astounded. I said, but I'm a man of my word. If when you come back in the third season and you're in your writer's room and you've decided that you have something for this character to do and that would be extended, then I will give you my word. I'll sign a contract then if that's the case. So the season came back and I really, they called me and I said, I'd like to speak to the showrunner, Vince Gilligan, and they went, well, who is this fucking guy? They asked me why, and I said, because I have some ideas. You know, it's like going for a job interview, and someone, you give your resume, and they ask you 1,000 questions, and then they say thank you and you leave, as opposed to saying, well, let me ask you a few questions about what your company can do for me. And so I proceeded to talk to Vince and was convinced that they had great ideas, and one of my ideas was that you needed someone to really solidify that particular character. So it started way back on the page, and once I realized there was something there to create that episode, not thinking beyond that, I let the words speak to me, and then eventually I found the voice for the character.
That's so impressive because, with acting, look, anybody that thinks they can get up there and be an actor, it's not easy. Because you guys are putting yourself through these emotions. Even though your brain can say you're acting, your body still feels like you're going through these emotions. So with a show this heavy, what did you guys do to kind of separate yourself from the character on that downtime, to kind of get away and take away from that character when you're leaving your car going home?
Well, that's a good question. It was easier the first couple seasons for me because he was the fun,
sure, happy Hank.
But when I got into the serious shit, I mean, it kind of affected my unfortunately in a way, my personality. It was 12 hours of being in a really depressed place, for many of those episodes, and. I remember my wife telling me at one point, I was snapped at Betsy or something, who plays my wife, Marie. And I was like, oh shit, So I tried to play golf. But other than that, I don't know. Sometimes it does take you over a little bit, and you got to read a book or something and just try to get away from it.
For me, it was something that helped me develop the character's patience. I started to look for areas where I needed to work on myself, and one was that I didn't have a lot of patience, and I wasn't willing to listen, right, to the energy of the room, to be able to wait, and to be able to study someone. And so I believe that actors, we love to act because that's what our task is. So there are words involved, and I wanted to get away from the words and get more underneath the skin of who Gustavo was. So I developed a meditation practice. And I deepened that meditation practice, which allowed me to give myself time and space to breathe. And once I did that, I found the essence of Gustavo, because he's a studier of people. As actors, that's what we do. You know, we study character, we study people. And if I put my attention over there more than over here, then I could feel like I'm really paying attention to someone else's story. And Gustavo is very calculated, so I added to that having a thought about everything that was going on, but not saying that thought. So that you as an audience would then go, what is he thinking? Well, wouldn't you like to know?
By you just saying that, because I find that so fascinating, the process of that. Because Gustavo has this stillness and this restraint in the character. Just for you, out of curiosity, what did you learn about yourself through playing Gustavo?
Well, I learned that I'm a very angry man. I learned that I have an edge that I project without even knowing it. And I also learned that as a human being, I'm uncomfortable with silence. I'm uncomfortable with living in a space of awkwardness.
Sure.
And when you look at someone and you ask them a question and they don't answer, there's something a little off about that. But I wasn't afraid to cultivate that with Gustavo, because to give yourself the space to be mindful and really think about what you're saying, as opposed to just saying it, is unusual in today's world. It's very rare now to be able to go, just to say these words, I don't know. Like we're supposed to know, we have this thing. And if you don't know, you give me a second, I'll find out. But what about if you don't know and allowing yourself your wheels to move, taking that space and time to be inspired. So I was inspired by the work I did with Gus in this particular show.
It's incredible, absolutely incredible. Dean, Hank, he's funny, he's loud, he's deeply vulnerable, he's macho at times, and he's sharp. This is all happening at once with this character. Where does the character for you, he doesn't just become one note. So for you, your approach to the character and the evolution of the character, what surprised you the most about his journey?
Well, I was surprised they didn't have a journey at all, to be honest with you. You know, most TV shows, you're kind of locked into a character, and that character stays the same. And with Hank, you know, they developed this, you know, lovely arc from the boisterous kind of loudmouth, you know, cocky guy to this completely, you know, emasculated at some level. And just, there's the speech that I give to my wife when to bed where he says, you know, the universe is telling me something. I'm not, you know, ready to be, I don't think I should be a cop anymore. And I just thought I can still get little chills thinking about that, because, you know, for this big guy to have to admit that he wasn't a man. He also says, I'm not the man I thought I was, which is something that it's tough to have to admit to your wife. So to go from all that to the, you know, really down, and then when he's in the hospital and he's really emasculated because he's in the bedroom and he has to depend on her to do stuff for him. I just thought it was it was a gift, you know, from Vince Gilligan and the writers to be able to go on that journey, and then he kind of gets it back at the end again, you know. So yeah, I just went on for that ride, you know. Yeah.
We are going to take fan questions because there's a lot of you in here, and this is an incredible show that I'm sure you guys have questions. But before we get, there's a mic here if you guys want to line up. It's right there. But before we get to your questions, I do have a question for you. Is that one thing I've always loved about your character is he's this dangerous character, but he feels completely lived in. Is there a small detail, whether it be his glasses, his posture, anything that he wore that brought him to life for you in a tangible kind of way?
I think all of that. I knew right away that I wanted to have a certain structural postural way of dealing with him. And I called upon, so when I got this part, like, I had a clip-on tie and a yellow shirt. And so I related to Gustavo as the owner of Los Pollos Hermanos. But I went to military school years ago, and I had a clip-on tie and a gray shirt. And so it clued me into the postural effect that military school had on me. And I felt like this guy was so measured that he'd be very careful about how he held himself in the world. And so that began the physical being intertwined with and working in sync with the intellectual part of him. He's well thought out, and in order for me to be ahead of everyone else, I had to use that intellectual mechanism to allow him to be, not for him to think he's smarter than everyone else, but for him to actually be smarter than everyone else. And being smarter isn't that he's better educated, it's that he is thoughtful. So he's thought through everything you could think of and more. And so that changed my life in so many ways, because it allowed me to think from the viewpoint and vantage point of someone else. It's much how we probably would want to live as human beings, right? Instead of judging someone, thinking about what their journey is and what they're up against,
Sure.
right? And what their challenges are and what their weaknesses are. And for Gustavo, I want to know all that so I can take advantage of you somehow and use you to my best ability. So I realized, I start to frame things not only in terms of my life, but in character life, but in things that I was weak at.
Sure.
Right? So I could look at someone and go, wow, I have so much compassion for you because I realize your journey has given you challenges that it hasn't given me. And in my life, it's made me a better human being because I'm less judgmental and I'm more trying to understand other human beings. Now, wouldn't it be a great world if we could use all that to the greatest and effect right now?
Well, hi, yeah, what's your name, sir?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Joe. First of all, I'll just keep it short. I just want to say thank you for all the amazing moments you both have provided us in this incredible series. So I just want to get that out. Thank you. Specifically, I just really wanted to say your speech, again, he has a 10 minutes ago speech, is just so powerful. And I know that was the end for Hank, but I was just wondering, my God, man, how you tapped into that, and do you have any stories about that last day?
Yeah, well, Vince told me almost verbatim that line about 2 years before we actually filmed that. He said, that's how you're going to go out. And it was the end of the show for me. Everybody was out there from the office and everybody else, to say goodbye. So it really was there was an emotion about it, saying goodbye to Brian, I literally got on a plane after that scene and went to another show. But the only thing I can tell you funny is that Ryan Johnson, the great Ryan Johnson, directed that episode. And it's very few times I've ever talked to a director and like how to do this. But the night before I saw him and I said, listen, man, I know you're gonna have this camera and this camera. I said, I just want one camera that just barely capture the moment of him realizing he's gonna die. Because he toughs it out all the way. And he said, I got that for you. And he had a fourth camera. And there's just a split second where you see in his eyes that because he's like, fuck you. But there's just a moment where you're like, fuck, I'm dead. you know? And I'm glad that he was able to capture that. And he's had my favorite line ever, because we did that in one take. There were 4 cameras, so he could do it in one take. And I finished that, and he goes, that's how you die on TV.
That was amazing. It was hard to have those 4 cameras and not be covered after that. That was on. Oh,
Well,
wow.
they may have got some stuff getting into it, but that was the scene.
Incredible, incredible. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Hank, Gus, thank you for being here, but my question's for Juan. You have something I want. What can you tell us about anything about the Mandalorian movie?
Oh boy. I don't normally, I don't have any spoilers for you. I know the film is about Mando and Grogu. I don't know much because everything's been kept under wraps. But I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's a journey.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cannot wait to that. Hello.
Hi, my name is Yasmina, and my question is for both of you. What advice would you have for someone like me who is an aspiring actor just trying to get their foot in the door?
I would say, persevere. I would say love it and be passionate about it and truly love the art of it. And somehow the business part somehow kind of works itself out, I guess. Don't you think?
I would agree. I think the first step is you have to put your toe in the water and see if you like it. And then if you like it, then start to pursue it. And then check in with yourself to see if you love it. Because it's something that you do for your soul. And you must love it to persevere enough to be able to, it's not about where you're going, it's about the journey of it and what it's teaching you. And then it allows you, the greatest thing that my career has done for me, it's allowed me to focus on learning the lines, figuring out how to walk and chew gum at the same time, and figuring out how to have it all be organic and come from my heart and soul. And that's the only way to have longevity in what you do. Every time I get a script, I look at it. I'm doing a piece in Atlanta called All the Sinners Bleed by S.L. Cosby. And when I looked at the episodes I had to do, I went, oh man, how am I going to learn all these lines? So there was the challenge of the physicality of the mechanics, right? I got to get this in my head. And then it was like, oh, how do I bring my whole heart and soul and spirit to it? And then it was like, oh, I'm so excited that I got the chance to put this puzzle together. And that's the kind of passion you have to do what we do. And that's what keeps you in it, keeps you loving it, and keeps you honoring the writer's intention, and then keeps you collaborative with directors and other actors, is that, because you don't act alone. You can be great, but you can't do it alone. It takes this interaction to do it. So as much attention as I have to put on what I do on the day, I have to put my attention on him, so we can play the symphony together.
Great answer.
Question,
I just want to follow up on that for a second, because I know that each one for you as a character really starts on the page for you. What is the process of you memorizing your lines, just to get them down first?
I do it, so it's not so daunting. You know, I had this Coyote monologue in this speech, and I looked at that and I went, oh my gosh. So I have to separate the emotion,
Sure.
because it's very emotional about my childhood and how I grew up poor and blah, blah, blah. And so I had to separate that, number one. And then I take a whole speech and I break it down into 2 sentences at a time. And I do one little paragraph, and I do it 1,000 times till I know it. Then I learn the second paragraph. Then I put them together and learn them together. Right? Then I add the third. It's building blocks.
Sure.
You know, until it comes off of me like it's a story I'm telling my grandkid.
Right.
And then I just try to make it as natural as possible. And of course you're going to lose some lines here or there. But if you know it really well, even when I'm in a take, I know when I've missed a line, but I don't stop and keep going. I know I'm going to go back and get it. You know, and I have a new thing that I do. I don't let them cut at the end of it. I finish the line I'm saying, and I immediately say, keep the camera rolling. I'm going to take a deep breath and go again. And I start right from the top and do it again.
That I feel like that keeps the performance so genuine too, when you have the camera continue to roll and the lines are just coming out. I feel like that's so genuine.
We're in a new world. You know, you say cut and everyone goes to their phone, and the makeup people come in and start touching you, and then everything breaks up and they're making a lighting adjustment and all this stuff. And so we take hours to set up the camera. That's their time, right? And then we take, what, 10, 15 minutes to get 1 or 2 takes and we're done? No, this is my time. And so in order to keep my time, or our time, I don't let them stop, so that we can do it a couple of times and then be done, and we're happy because we got it.
That's amazing. That is incredible. Thank you so much for that insight. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
I was wondering, your characters, Gus and Hank, if they could go back and had one more move to make before everything fell apart, what do you think they would have done differently? If anything.
Good question.
I know your answer.
What's my answer? I would have called Gus Frank and got in business with him, motherfucker.
The alternate timeline.
And I would have killed Walter in the desert long before
A little bit different show. A little bit different show.
Who's the saying up the words, right?
Thank you so much for that question.
I completely forgot to tell you during the autographs and photo ops, my friend was beating me up about it because I forgot multiple times, but I love the show so much, I got the title tattooed on me forever.
Love it.
One of the greatest shows of all time. Hello.
Howdy. So my question is aimed actually more at Dean. So towards the end of the show, right, you find out, you discover Walt's big secret, right? And as I understand, Brian was really well worked with us, that very nice guy. Did you have to do anything special to kind of like bring forth the bile, your confrontations with him, to emotionally do that, to get that scene out, right? Did you have to prep yourself in any way or any sort of mind space changes.
Yeah, on scenes that are as intense as that, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm, I have come with different approach to different, scenes and things like that. But certainly in that one, we both kind of stayed in a pretty, I don't know. I don't like to walk around the set like in some method way where you're kind of, don't talk to me, call me Honey Hank or something like that, But there are scenes where you kind of got to really keep it down. And yeah, I mean, that was just channeling a lot of, look, we all have anger and hurt and stuff to call on, and that certainly was that there for that scene. He directed that scene, by the way. Yeah. So that was added another kind of layer to the whole thing. So.
Thank you. Can I follow up on that?
Yeah.
I want to ask, because Hank and Marie, they brought so much humanity to the series. What did Betsy bring to the role that went beyond the page to help round Hank out?
I don't know. We just really hit it off, her and I. We're still good friends, and I talk to her and text her, and we met in the audition room, and we both. She's from the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. I think that we're just. And I just hit it off with her, and we just always thought we had a much better relationship than Walt and Skyler. And we kind of like that, you know what I'm saying? So she's just a doll and a great, and I love her dearly.
Amazing. Hello.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, is there any attributes of your characters or scenes that you improvise, and if so, what are your favorites?
Can you repeat?
Yeah. So,
She's asking if there's anything that you improvise on your character.
yeah, or like any scenes and stuff, and like if so, what's your favorite?
So, this is one of the shows where you had great writing. And again, we as actors, we want to bring the most we can to a great script, so then we start changing things and we diminish its greatness because something about us says, I want to add this and add that. This was perfect writing to me, and I found no flaw. So it was a challenge to find a way to add to that. What I did was add space, and I added physicality. I remember this elevator scene. Johan was directing this episode. And I would do things that I didn't think anyone would ever see, but I noticed. There were little tells. And in the elevator scene, I had my hand by my side, and I was completely still. The camera is on me. He did a wide shot and a close-up shot. But he noticed in the wide that I was just tapping these two fingers together. And he came on the elevator and said, you are doing something with your hand. I said, oh, you noticed? He said, yeah, I want to go down there and get that. And I thought, great, because that was the tell in the moment that, Gus was a little bit nervous. Shit wasn't going the right way. So I added things like that.
That's incredible. That's
Woo!
Hey guys, just want to say this, it's such a great show. I mean, I love good writing, and I can't say enough how amazing and perfect writing that is. It all works so well, and I just want to know, what was it like working with that script? How hard was it to make sure that you got those perfect beats down so that every little thing works and makes sense, and you can go back in the story and see where people made mistakes, where decisions were made, and how that affected everything else? I love stories like that. I just want to know how was that to do that?
Well, I'll tell you what, bad writing is hard acting. But good writing and great writing, it's just, I don't know, I would read those lines and almost immediately know how to say them. Like, coming off the page. Like, I swear, I think I can seriously say this, I don't think there was a script or a scene where I was like, God, how am I going to make that work? Maybe you have. I just never had a scene where I was like, I don't know how to make that work. It was like, I just had to make it. I just had to bring it to life from the page. But I swear it was perfect.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's a gift when you get a script that is such perfection that you don't have to figure out how to, one, make it better. All you have to really figure it out is how to make it your own, and how to serve the great words on the page.
So it feels as if the emotional choices were already kind of on the page. It's just bringing the nuance to the characters, essentially, right?
Well, the emotional direction was there.
Sure.
Yeah. The choices become yours.
Gotcha.
I did a strange thing. I knew I was doing all right in the first few episodes, and I decided to stop asking and to empower myself just to do. And it was a moment that changed the direction of not only this character in this show, but my whole career. I decided that yes, I want to honor if I understood the writing, I want to honor the writer's intention, but then I want to bring more to it. So I started to bring more to it without asking if I could. And then I'd see the next week's script and I would start laughing because they saw it. The writers in the writer's room saw it and they started writing to that. So it was almost an unspoken language of always trying something when it felt organic and true and doing it. And if it was something that they didn't want, they would tell me, and they never did. They kept writing to that strength because, it's again, your instinct and your gut gets taken away if you don't use it, right? Your brain gets taken away if you're always relying on something to tell you what time it is, where to go, how to get there, right? You actually know. You can put, a Hawaiian or a Polynesian in a boat on the water, and they know where north, south, east, and west is. They know how to get home. Same thing with birds and animals. So I refer to that a lot because they still have the ability to tap into their instinct. They know where they're come from. They know who they are. They know where they're going no matter where you drop them in the ocean. And so with a good script and your good instincts, you can navigate anything.
I think that's so impressive that you take this excellent script and then add layers on top of it, and then you get the next script back, and those layers are there, and you continue to build and add. I think that's so cool. Hello? Oh, hi.
Hi, my name's Garrett. It's an honor to meet both of y'all. You guys both spent a lot of time in a lot of scenes with Walt. So my question to either of y'all is, what's your favorite memory with Bryan Cranston?
Well, there's just too many he's such a great guy to be on the set with. And I will tell you a little story though. This is a guy who, because he would direct, I don't know how he did 3 or 4 of them, but this is a guy who literally could be in the middle of the most intense scene, and he's off camera when they're setting some stuff up, and he's telling you a joke, and they're like, all right, we need, and he just say, goes on there and fucking becomes Heisenberg in a snap. I shit you not. There was a couple times I was like, I was gonna throw him. I was like, what was it? And then he finishes and he goes and tells the punchline to the joke. And there were times like that, especially when he was directing. He's like, Dean, I need you to do this. Then he looked at his sides real quick. Okay, action, and he was boom. He was the guy. I found it an amazing concept.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for both.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
My questions are mostly for Giancarlo. My question is, how did it feel like to get the major role in a Star Wars franchise? And for Gus, what do you think of like the iconic scene of like half his face gone? And like, was it like the CGI or like physical props? And do you think Gus? Wait, one more. And do you think Gus would go to a? Sorry. But do you think Gus would go to a convention? I guess a lot,
Gus definitely would not go. You would have to come and convene with him. And so episode 4. Okay, so my last episode, yes. It was an arduous process to get all everything was practical. All the makeup on for my final scene. And so I was working with some masters. Howard Berger came out, who helped design it, Greg Nicotera, and their company designed the whole rig that went on my face. And so that took about 4.5 hours. So there was obviously something to act through and to be mindful of having all of this stuff on my face, prosthetic. So that was a process, and I had to forget that it was there in order to do what I needed to do, which all came up in a meeting with Vince, who asked me what I might be doing if I met my demise. And I said to him, well, I walked into a trail of bullets, and I'm a made man, and I've survived all of that. And he said, well, what might you do if there was an explosion? And I said, Vince, let's look at what I do. You know, when I get up, I'm very proper. I button my jacket, because that's what I do in life. I'm always checking my tie to see that it's all the way up to the collar and it's seated the right way. And Vince went, oh, wow. So there were a lot of things to think about in that moment, but all I really needed to think about was, what Dean referred to earlier. It's like the moment that there is a traumatic event, my face is half off, somewhere in one eyeball's got to be, oh, I'm going to die, and somewhere in the other part of me, is I'm going to die with dignity. So all those thoughts were on my mind. And I found it to be a delicious, when you have to play more than one thing, you have to be in a place in your brain that allows you to project those things with a vulnerability and an organic realism that you want to portray. And then Star Wars, it was great to be able to get that role. I was honored to play Moff Gideon. I got a call from Jon Favreau who asked me to do it. And I'm a big fan of the Star Wars franchise in the early days and thereafter. And so I was happy to return to something that had some originality to it in regard to the Mandalorian show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. It's an honor and pleasure to meet you both. My question is for Mr. Esposito. Since Breaking Bad, you've had these other roles like Stan Edgar, the dictator from Far Cry. But do you feel as if your performance as Mr. Gus Fring has like typecasted you into this kind of like ruthless, cold villain?
No, not at all, because I'm a ruthless and cold person.
Great answer.
No, if anything, so I'll start with Far Cry. They called me in to meet with them. I went in a suit, and they wanted to play a little bit before, and I wanted to talk about it. And then I decided, I like them. And then they took out a knife. And I almost walked out of the room. I said, yeah, not a box cutter, a knife. And I said, no, I wouldn't use that. And I said, I want to be really clear here. I played Gus Fring, and I'm not interested in playing him again in your format. And if that's what you want, I'm not your guy. If you want to talk about me have gone to Cuba and knowing a little bit about Fidel Castro and other dictators that I've met 3 of them, then I'll talk about that. If you want to talk about the politics of this little island and talk about all those things to create this character, I'll talk about that. So I try to move away from things I've done before. I don't feel like I'm typecast because I'm the guy who says yes or no. I want you to do this. I don't wait for the phone to ring and go, oh yes. No, it's up to me. It's my decision. And so it's interesting, I know that folks who aren't in the business have a sense that you get put into things because you have done that before. Yes, that is correct. People will call you because they think that's your strong suit and that's what you do. But we as actors, we want to do something else after we've done that. You do that, it's heavy. You want to do something lighter and something different. But do I love playing the villain? I do, because I feel like the villain is there's a hero and there's a fallen hero. The fallen hero is a hero who just fell from grace. So to me, my success is creating someone who is truly human, and there's reasons behind it, right? No one listened to me. Moff Gideon, no one's listening to him. He wants to put the whole universe back together, and no one has heard it. And he says, I'm going to do it anyway because I know better than you. Hubris. Those are interesting qualities that many of us, have. And so I try to play against them and sometimes with them to create the characters that I do.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Great answer. Hi.
So, Juan, I have a question for you. So in season 3, there's the whole thing where
they call me Mr. Tibbs. My name is Giancarlo.
Okay, Giancarlo.
No, not Giancarlo. Giancarlo. If I didn't roll no, just listen. Don't repeat. Use your ears. My name is Giancarlo Esposito. Giancarlo Esposito. Para italiano, Giancarlo. So I'm not a Juan, I'm not a John, I'm not a Jean. I'm Giancarlo.
I'm Dean, by the way. Not Dan. Fucking Ben.
Dean Norris. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. In season 3, there's the drug dealers that Jesse is dealing with, and the whole conflict with that, where the kid ends up getting killed, and Jesse retaliates, and Gus implies that, like he says, it's not me that gave the order, but it's kind of left ambiguous as to whether that's true. And I'm not sure if you can answer that, but what do you think? Like, do you think Gus would have given that order, and if so, do you think he regretted it, given that it kind of led to everything falling apart?
I don't. I think that Gus very possibly could have given that order. I think Gus has a moral standard. I mean, he tells Walter, we are not the same. You know, you never deal with drug addicts. You know, they're not reliable, not trustworthy. That's the difference between us. I would never trust this kid. So I think it's very possible that Gus gave that order.
I have a question for you. During 1 minute, do you think Gus called Hank to warn him about the assassins?
No.
No. It's never been answered, that
No,
question.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
We're gonna try to rapid fire through these, so let's go.
Howdy, howdy. Question for both of you. Breaking Bad is so big, it spun off a sea of memes. How do y'all feel memes have affected the impact of your work and your careers?
For me, they just allow me to know that more kids under 10 know who I am.
I love the memes, man. I'm all memed out. I love them.
Question for Giancarlo is that whenever you hear a bell in your everyday life,
The first bell I heard was working as a waiter in the kitchen.
There you go.
And if that bell rang, you got your ass in there because the chef wanted his food served hot. And you were like moving. And now I hear those bells all the time, and I'm moving to the kitchen to get that food.
Thank you. We only have time for maybe a couple more. Go ahead.
Hi, nice to meet both of you. I have a question about, for Giancarlo, about what happened in Santiago with Eric Schuler when your backs were against the wall. I love the ambiguity of the show. Can you give me some insight?
It's very, it has a lot of ambiguity around it, yes. And I feel like that was the moment that Gus decided he wasn't going to stay and be the dictator. I feel like that is the moment that he decided he wasn't going to be anyone else's boy politically, and that he would get out. Because I always feel like Gus had he had not only the intellectual wherewithal, but he had the composure and the intelligence to run a country. But that's not what he wanted to do. He wanted to get out of his family's footsteps and move out on his own, and that's what he did. So I think whatever happened there in that moment, back there in Santiago, he knew it was time for him to go and leave all that behind.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Let's make it fast. Let's go.
Dan, John, nice to meet y'all.
What the fuck did I just say?
So, 5-second pitch, right? You have El Camino, Better Call Saul. The next world building, you make a documentary set in the world of Breaking Bad. So you interview the wives, you interview all the people that were impacted. Skylar White refused to comment. And then at the end, big reveal, who's the narrator? Maybe Holly White went to journalism school, I don't know. We'll see.
Is that just a pitch?
Just a pitch.
I love it.
And then you guys can do flashbacks and come back and, you know.
I love that.
Thank you.
Real Housewives of Albuquerque.
I'm Pamela. My question's for Giancarlo. So, like, naturally, as you do when you watch a show, you look up all the actors. So I looked you up, and it said Giancarlo Esposito, and it said you're Italian. So I'm curious, were you fluent in Spanish before the show, or did you have to learn before the show?
Well, because of my name is Esposito, people have always thought in the Spanish community it's Espinosa. And so I started at a young age in the theater and moved to film and television, and I moved to being who I am. But I had to go through being a whole lot of other ethnicities before I could tell who I really am. I mean, so I spoke some Spanish, and because I played Spanish roles before, and I would learn some Spanish words. I still remember a Spanish Hamlet I did in a show called Seesaw at 13 years old. Están tomando traidores a esto con punta al pulso ya. Me arde con esos contra mí. El rey es el culpable. It never left me.
And you guys got a performance too. That's gonna be our last question. Please meet them at their panel, at their booth, get a picture. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Gus has so much more. He's so cool.